Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Captain's Academy. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Defender 2. Defender 2 is inspired by the Star Wars The Old Republic, the Defender. Here, the build represents a light Corvette formula, which translates into, in the space of vanilla Reforged Eden 1 and Reforged Eden 2, is a high agility fighter. Starting out with a nominal level of thrust, it does eventually upgrade to 2 drive thrusters in each direction, and some supplemental for a couple other ones, including lift and also strafe, which the end result turns this into a very devastating high mobility platform. It is very effective versus any sort of Xerax or typical enemy that you encounter, including a Tavera. Now, this may also run into some issues going against some opponents, such as like the Legacy, with their a lot of their weapons are perhaps not as easy to dodge, or more so lean towards hitscan with Reforged Eden 2. So that could be a point of challenge. Now, even with this very thin layer here at the front, just looking at maybe some couple thin layers of glass here and some armor here, the combat bridge is encased with combat steel. Considering even this, this was well enough for me to take on a Tavera and destroy it at a cap core. Now, one of the features of it is it's designed to engage and disengage using the conjunction of shield plate, backing off to recharge, and also going in with a use of the rolls or perhaps even some strafe in order to dodge fire to mitigate any sort of incoming damage to you or redirect it to decoys. Now, in some cases, like if it's a prolonged fight, typically for me to meet success, I'll end up backing off and just as an example, I'll touch up, just make sure, like, if you run into a similar situation where it's a prolonged fight, just back off, and while your shields are recharging, go ahead and touch up your glass. And with a convenient drone hatch here, you could pop that, and again, while you're backed off recharging, maybe top off some sort of turrets that are on the exterior, or maybe some decoys you have here. Maybe even a little bit of this armor. And just staying on top of that, not as frequent as you might think if you're employing a proper spin tactic versus some of the Xerax enemies, for example. Not as prolific as you would think you'd have to do with that. Now, in the case of maybe we're not concerned about having a placement at the front, I do have an alternative back here. The seat, you could take this out and put in a additional control station there at the midsection. So if you're concerned about this here, maybe that's not for you. There is the midsection placement, and this engineering section is also a fortified area for your core room, and so anything in here is encased in combat steel. So let's get started. Again, just want to take a look here. So, as mentioned, all directions to leads up to a dual drive thruster configuration. So Reforged Eden 2, that could be ideally with plasma after you've placed all your devices. Dual plasma is really giving me a robust performance, even considering weight load and all that stuff. For such a small profile, having dual plasma turns it to a high agility build. Alright, so moving forward, let's go to our engineering section here, accessible from the hangar area. So we just go down here. And this is going to be our CPU placement. We have enough here for everything available in Reforged Eden 2, and, well, probably everything in any scenario, to be honest with you. But let's go ahead and look at our RE2 placement. So we will be coming in with 1 basic and 2 improved, so that's going to leave you with a placement of 1 basic left, and that's going to be right here where this little plus is. So let's just go ahead and place that there. And obviously we have our improved, so that's not an issue. And we're going to look at placing our advanced. So let's go ahead and stand this up. See, we have the symbols here. So I just go ahead and place that. And that's one. This would be our second one here. But before you do that, if you have any sort of auxiliary, this is a ideal placement for this. So you would just want to rotate these, stand them up. Or I guess you could lay them down either way. So that's one configuration. And then, so this could be either your advanced, your 3x1, or it could also be like a quantum. You could place a quantum there. And I had these configured for the old quantum 2x3s. So that's not a thing now. So quantum is now 3x1. So you could fill this up like this. And maybe you want to do that. And since you're going to put your advanced down first. Oops. Right. So since we're going to get our advanced first, that could go there, and your last quantum could go there, just for the sake of convenience for process of acquisition, if you will. All right, so then that's our superior placement here for either side. So let's just go ahead and rotate this. And there it is. That's all of our CPU. Now, if you're running any sort of scenario that perhaps has a increase past that, if you want to stuff any more CPU in this room, you could take up these thin blocks here and just go ahead and start stacking them up. And that should be it for all of our CPU. So next thing we want to look at is our generators. Number of options here, including a small fusion reactor and advanced large generators. So we'll be coming in with one, and for my testing, it looks like this here would be sufficient just for vanilla, just the one. But for other scenarios, we do have the option to triple up in this compartment. All right, so we have that, and maybe for RE1 or RE2, we're not quite ready to pivot over to like a small fusion reactor. We could always utilize some of this space above. That's an option, but probably better would be the reserve bank here, which will come into play when you have your fusion reactor, or maybe you have some other placement in mind. It could be like vanilla, it could be a additional cargo box or something you could place in here. 320K system. Now for RE2, this will be a ideal placement for a fusion reactor, small fusion. That's going to leave you a little bit of space here, so fill that up to your heart's content. Maybe there could be some additional large generators, but you probably won't need that between one fusion and one advanced, but it's there if you want to. It could be additional small cargo if you want to do that. Or maybe something else. Now, so if we have that for RE2, we could go ahead and then take out 2 or 3 of these. Okay. That takes that out. Now for RE2, since we've cleared that space, we could utilize that for additional turbine placement. So, taking a look at our turbines here, this is our advanced plasma turbine. There's optional placement for that, more on that later. So our standards, we could, depending on how our energy is, we could either put 2 there or go ahead and put 3 like that, and then we could rotate this here, and that would take care of that. So then that would leave you a little bit of space there for something, possibly a gravity generator if you want one of the bigger ones to give full coverage of the build. That could be an option. Now, so that's our standards. Let's go ahead and take a look at our advanced turbine placement options. So this could be a placement here. This is one option, right? We'll leave you a little bit of space back here for another device. Could possibly even break this wall down if you want to put these devices together, but I'd be wary of perhaps chain detonation there. So that'll be on you. Now, so that's our that's one placement for that. Now, however, if we want to, what we could do is maybe we've moved on from this. This is our farm here, and maybe we've moved on from using a farm, and we have perhaps a dedicated module or something like that. So what we could do is just go ahead and remove our farm block allotment. Okay, that's our base, and then we want to go ahead and take care of these curved blocks. That's going to be another one. Right? And then so now we could either choose to redirect these devices here, perhaps. You know, maybe we want to put the fridge is on the opposite side. You could take these blocks out and do like that or something. And then so that's going to open up your additional or, you know, maybe that's just your single one, and then you're using the compartment space in the back for something else, but... oh yeah, it's alright, so we gotta take out the grow lights too, that's the thing. And then, if everything has cooperated properly, let's make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Yeah, alright, there it is. So that's a optional turbine placement if you want to cannibalize the farm. So, but if you do that, keep in mind you might get burned going through there. So tread carefully with some armor mods, or you know, once you're one and done with your CPU placement, that's it. All right. So, I mean, this box can be used for a number of things, not just generators, turbines, or anything like that. But again, let's go ahead and take a look. Now, this could be our last placement here for our... Actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's actually use these side ones. So, what we could do for RE2 is we could place these for either side. Aux bank generally is used for the shields, medium-sized shield parts. So for RE2, you could get those plasma turbines there, and then you could fit the medium shield parts here. We'll take a look at that here in a second. Or for RE1, that's going to fit your medium shields here with the 3 height. So you can play it either way. Now for vanilla, this would also be a good spot for like some additional compartment space, some cargo space. So that's the turbines there. Now let's take a look at, again, we're kind of playing with that center section. Could do a number of other options here, like so. For those that will want to use a drone bay, this is actually getting a lot of mileage, these drones. These are really effective for, at least for RE2, for my determination, using the space drones. And so that could be a placement there. It's going to leave you a little bit there to play with. You know, you can push this back 1 block, and that'll give you another 3 height. That could be an additional small fusion reactor. So, a number of ways to configure this central spine placement. Right, so that could be drone placement. Let's go ahead and look at our... let's take a look at our shields. Okay, so starting with the small shields, we have the corners here. Those are space holder blocks. We can go ahead and take those out. Do like this. So, same thing here for RE1 and 2. That's going to be your typical placement for smalls. Now, for these other positions, you got a couple of options. For RE2, again, well, we could piggyback with like how we have the turbine placement here, and then like the... So, for example, let's go ahead and place our medium shield parts and the auxiliary banks. So you can see we can place that, and we're also having the plasma turbines there, the small ones. So we could do the same thing here. Get all 6 of these in, and then at this point we could use the small ones here. Now, if we're not doing that, and, you know, maybe, for example, we're reforging one, and we need to take up the whole compartment for the shield part, so we could just go ahead and mount that there. That's a spot, and then also we could take this off, this little deco piece, and then there's that spot there. Now, if we're worried about, like, maybe a little bit of clipping there from, like, an HV parking or something, we could just go ahead and take off these little thin blocks on the part there, and that'll be your placement. That would cut it for RE1 without having to dip into the ceiling section here. And maybe you'd want to use this for something else. It could be for like a medical placement or something. Alright, so that's our small and medium-sized shield parts. Now, again, so it's coming back to this central compartment here. A lot of utility. So for the larges, we could go ahead and cram 2 in there. Back to back. So that'll take care of that. And also for a third one, if we wanted to, maybe we're not using the plasma here. Turbine. Could get that out and then just go ahead and place that in there. Right? Maybe you could move this forward a couple blocks and then we don't have this bleed through right here. Then you could leave a block there for that. So that would be 3 of the large shield parts as an option. You could go 2 recharge and 1 capacitor for a high recharge rate. Entirely up to you how you want to configure that. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our thrusters, the thing that will define the build. Again, it kind of comes in sluggish. Now, this might be sufficient for vanilla, just having these advanced here, and then maybe even for RE2, you could just leave the advanced in place and then upgrade them. However, if you just want to make the most out of this build, if you just want to turn this thing out and become a UFO of agility, let's just go nuts with the drive thrusters, right? So starting with forward thrust, this is an obvious tell. Just want to get these blocks out of here, and you can see we have our defined spot back there. Not wanting to push past X. Now we want to take out these double fins. Get these guys out of here. Again, I wish there was a way I could just like have y'all press a button and then it gets rid of all the placeholder blocks. That would be sweet. Alas, that's not the world we live in. So bear with me. Alright, and then so that's that. That'll be our forward thrust, and you know, maybe we want to have it match up a little bit with the rest of the build, so we just copy this color here and paste it onto that base, and there it is. So that's forward thrust, and you know, a lot of these things should be easy tells. So, for example, we have this structure here. So we want to take that out, get rid of our advanced, and same thing with the other process. Oops, we don't want to push back that block. Yeah, actually we want to, and then we get rid of that. Just keep going. You don't want to go past the level marked with the X's. That's going to be the end of the run, and then there it is. So we could go like that, and there's our reverse thrust. Now, straight thrust, we have a little bit of options here. I would say there's a load priority. Now, if you put your straight thrust here first, this is not going to contribute to yaw. So this is sort of like a supplemental straight thrust. It's just going to be good for the raw torque. You'd want to get this placement done first, and that's going to give you your yaw. That's going to be like turning left to right. So let's go ahead and get rid of these blocks, and just want to keep pushing back until we hit X. And this layer here, this could be preserved. We missed the block. There it is. All right. So that goes in. Now, I would recommend going with the full-size one. And that's going to complete your aesthetic there. And then maybe we just want to go ahead and copy that color. That could work either way. All right. So that's one drive straight thrust placement. And that's going to give you the most bang for the buck as far as the maneuverability. your yaw. Now then for supplemental raw thrusts for your strafe, let's go ahead and do this. Get rid of these blocks. There we go. Again, not pushing past the X. And there it is. Alright, so that's our drive thruster placement. Now, if for some reason that's not enough, maybe we want a little bit more, we can take these out, and this will also contribute to some of your some of your yaw. It'll give you a little bit more on the control. So just go ahead and take these out. You could go mediums, 2x1s, or you could even go 3x1s with some of this placement here. Alright. And so you can imagine, like in Reforged Eden 2, you upgrade those, and you got these strafe thrust, the drives upgraded as well, then it's pretty sick, honestly. Now, I was just kind of rolling with a plasma configuration, and that's robust enough, let alone imagining that you have antimatter drives there, which would be absolutely insane. That is a thing if you just want just completely ridiculous control. That's an option. Now let's go ahead and move on to our lift thrusts. So we have a number of options here. Again, we're going to go ahead and we got our drive thrust back here. We want to place these first. Let's go ahead and pull these out. So we're going to be replacing our advanced if that's what we want to do. Again, that might not be the thing that you need to do for RE2. Again, you could just go ahead and upgrade the advanced, and that might be sufficient for you. But for anybody that's wanting to exploit this build to its fullest as a pure agility build, then I highly recommend the drive thrusters. So you could go full block there, and that's going to do that. Alright, so that's our 2 in the back, and so an additional option here is to go for the advanced thruster at the front. This will help with lift, and this will also help with nose up, if that's something that you want to min-max. Alright, again, not going past the X there, and then there's that. So, copy-paste the color as you see fit. Maybe that's what you want there. Alright, so that's our lift thrust. We're looking at 2 drive and 2 advanced. And so now we just need to do the down thrust, and that's also going to be at the back. So you kind of want to sync these 2 up, like putting this back here in the lift, and then this one back here in the down thrust position. Before you'd want to put these, because then you want these 2 in parity for your nose up and nose down. Otherwise, if you just do like this down thrust there first, and then like you're adding some supplemental there, it's kind of going to skew your ratio. Alright, so same thing with the others here. We've taken our advanced thrust out, and let's just go ahead and take these little blocks out. And there it is. So let's go ahead and just rotate that. Alright, that should be all of our thrust configuration. Very nimble. What are we looking at here? This is just ion drive, so yeah, not bad. Now imagine upgrading that, and my goodness, it feels great. Agility builds are relevant in RE2. It's not for everybody, but for those that appreciate it, it's always an option. Alright, so that's it for the thrust. Let's go ahead and look at our... let's look at some of our accessories first. So we have a number of things going on here. Okay, so we have the accessible detector, and if we want to upgrade that... the detector is located in engineering. So when ready to, so for RE2, for example, you can only have the 1. So we just get the detector out of there, and like, so if we wanted to do a radar, Um, Now you could, I guess you could clear some of the. Well, it's kind of a hard fit, honestly, placing it inside. Now we do have for the big radar, we do have a placement back here. Um, and then placing it there, you could leave you a little bit of spot for some turret placement right there, so that's fine. This little half block section here, this is kind of more of a determination for the like a SV landing pad. So this is kind of your toggle here with the radars, just placing along that section there. For RE1, if you just want to use the regular radar, or maybe for RE2, you don't need this giant array. You could just put the radar right there, replace that deco piece. Okay, so looking at gravity, we have a couple things going on here. So we have a designated spot here in the engineering section. Again, just traverse through there, and this is a spot for the. So you want to do the stronger 1x1. That'll be this one right here. Now, if you're just worried about transiting through the front of the ship, this is going to be your higher trafficked area. Then having that spot there, that's going to cover the most of the ship. Now, towards the back here, it's going to drop off. Won't quite get the full coverage. So, if you're more concerned about getting some complete coverage, let's see, get rid of that there. And I guess you could, like, take out this block here, right? Let's see, was that 2x1x2? Oh, it's got the... Right. So that may not be an option. Unless we turn it sideways. No, that's not going to work either. Anyways, let's look at our designated spot here. So if we're using like the turbines here, or maybe we're gonna leave the space open for something else, you can place this here. Or you could also go to 2x2x2, and that for sure will get you the full coverage if the 2x1x2 does not. And so that'll encompass the whole build, and that'll just be your one-stop shop as far as the gravity is concerned. Right. Okay, so let's take a look at our teleporter. This is our designated spot here. This is at the bridge. We'll follow the T placement there, real easy, and we already have our sensor pre-set up. So once we place that there, we just need to go ahead and press the P button, and then, press the P button on the device itself. We go to Signal Logic, and then we configure it to teleporter. Okay, we haven't configured that completely, and it's still active. Disregard that. This will be active once it goes live. Alright. Actually, we already have it set up, but just a radius is terrible. But that'll be fixed. No worries. These things consume a lot of energy. Anyways. Alright, so that's that. Now, let's look at some other options. We already have a repair station and armor locker. Various armor lockers. We have a forward position here. We have an armor locker back here with our repair station, so a little bit convenience here, but maybe that's not quite enough. Maybe we want a repair bay closer to where the action is. So if we go here to our little deployment room, what we could do is we have these little deco pieces. This can come out, and then we're just going to go ahead and plot that there, and then we could also do the armor locker on the opposite side. So right there, located to your entry for sake of convenience. So that's that. Now, let's see here. Again, with the control station, this could go to the back, the midsection. So we have this regular seat here. I'm just going to go ahead and take that out and put in like a captain's chair. So then now we have a protected bridge away from the front bridge. See, that teleporter sucked up all the fuel. Alright. So that's that, and let's go ahead and take a look at our repair bay. We got a couple options here, like anything else. So repair bay, we have one spot here for the internal placement. So we'll just go ahead and drop that, and drop it there. So that's one option if we want to do an internal. Now for the console itself, it could just like So for example, we just want to take that deco piece out, and there's that. Now, however, we do have another option, and that's on the top. So let's say we get rid of that. Get rid of this. This is going to be our placement here at the top. Just look for this little minus symbol. And that's for that if you want to do like SV placement or, yeah, like an SV repair station. And then so the terminal, you know, you could always just leave it there, but if maybe you want to, again, just work out of the bridge, could pull this baby up front, and let's say we get rid of that deco piece, and that could be a potential placement for it there. Same thing on the opposite side. Alright, so that's that. Let's see here. Now, constructors. Constructors, deconstructors, and universal constructor. Any sort of additional constructors that we want to place. We got options in a hangar. So we have this one here, kind of a cue as to what to do. Now, we want to line the floor here going against the wall. We could take out these double thins, for example. Can take out that thin block and this. Oops, we double pull the block there for some reason. That's a weird thing going on. All right, so there's that. Right, so that one's on me. Can't blame the mouse for that. Like, see that? I don't know why it's doing. I need a new mouse or something. All right. So that could be our configurable constructor placement, right? So you could do like a universal, doing the 3x2x2. That's an option, or you could just do it any number of. Oops, actually pull those other blocks. I didn't need to do that. So could do like a number of advanced constructors or deconstructors, however you want to configure it. That's entirely up to you. Yeah, so for the opposite side of the symmetrical here, I'd probably want to just leave these here. And then just start your run of constructors back here, since you've got these devices there. Could use this for something, you know, maybe this could be like that upgrade locker or something for RE2. And then just for this opposite side, whatever. But primarily your constructors would be on this side if you're not worried about disrupting this configuration here. Otherwise, just, you know, go to town and use up the whole thing. Alright, so that's for the internals, and let's go ahead and look at the externals, starting with our mounted weapons and then leading into turrets. Alright, so mounted weapons, we have a number of options, and I guess maybe that will depend on what scenario you're playing, if it would be vanilla in RE1 or RE2, because RE2 will want to have shield penetration and the weapons will be a target, so it's kind of a big tell here. Now, you could do this if you wanted to. You could just go for a pair of light weapons, and there's your placement there for that. Looks more akin to the actual Defender with its amount of weapons on the side there like that. So that could be like weapon mounts for that position, or if you wanted to, maybe we'll just want to go ahead and clear this block configuration out, and then that would provide you with some mediums. Right? Now, ideally with RE2, you'd want to shift some of your your tier 2 weaponry to the midsection and back. However, again, if you're good on the throttle with the agility builds, even with these up front, of course they're going to take fire from the shield bleed through, but you know, if you're managing your devices in conjunction with your throttle control and how you're handling the agility build, so you're going to be fine. That shouldn't be anything to worry about. Even with a prolonged engagement, just make sure and keep an eye on it. But maybe you like the build and you're not concerned too much about using the agility too often, then yeah, go ahead and, for security's sake, go ahead and shift all of your tier 2 and above devices to the midsection. But that's an option. So let's go ahead and roll this back, and that'll be fine. You know, get the tier 1 weapons there. We have a number of other placements here. This could be an additional tier 1. Yeah, it could go like that. Or those could be drills if you wanted to. So another placement right there. Right? Right, so that's our tier 1s, and we do have options here where we can utilize this forward section. So it doesn't have to be all aesthetic. So this could come out, and then that could be some mounts, and you can continue to do that along this whole run here, right? Reforged 1, vanilla, maybe that could be ideal since you don't have to worry about shield penetration. That could be good mounts, and maybe more towards this midsection as you're utilizing this placement. Could be for the weapons that you want to snipe cores and stuff like that. Move those more towards the center, like your artillery and such. Maybe these are laser weapons on the outside. Alright, so let's go ahead and roll that back, since that's also another option for turret placement. And we'll take a look at that here in a second. So, alright, so amount of weapons, that's an option there. And so let's say we don't want to worry about mounting those. Maybe just want to leave the default blockwork in place. That's fine too. So that would be light tier weapons. Again, also, so there is another option here, right at the nose section, this little mouth bit. So we have placement for 3 for better precision, and that would be located right next to your control station. So maybe these 3 weapons are ideal for the sniping of a core or something like that. And that'll be an option there. Alright. Actually, let's leave those in. Okay, so that's light weapons there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our mediums. Got a couple placements here again. That could be a medium spot right there. Ideally, though, yeah, like some of the tier 2 and plus stuff for reforging, so you want to shift that towards the midsection or back, and then like leave the tier 1 stuff as a decoy. So we could do like that for mediums. For a quad placement, this is a good mount here. So let's say we're looking underneath this little breast section here, this little hanger on. That's going to be a placement there. So that'll give you a quad configuration. Could go for another placement here if you want to. So mediums. Now, for my configuration where I was finding success versus the Tavera, I was using mediums as the mounted weapons, and everything else was turrets, specifically missiles. Now, okay, so that's the mediums. Now, if you wanted to do like some heavy mounts, that's also an option. Again, we're clearing off this thin black layer, pushing to where the thrusters start. So there could be some mounts there, and another option is if you want to utilize this midsection here, you could get rid of that deco piece, and that's a mount there for a tri-mount. So the bottom, it's kind of don't really have. I guess you could let this hang off a little bit, right? So the big one. And there's 5 mounts if you want to do that. But getting that 6th one, that might be a little difficult because we have this gear in place. Otherwise, I'd suggest mounting here, but the gear is in place. Now, if you want to maybe move this landing gear somewhere else, I don't think of where you could put that, though. But, heck, man, 5's probably enough there. Okay, so, alright, so that's for the heavies. Let's get that out of there. So let's stay with that configuration there. Now, yeah, that's kind of the look at the mounted weapon spots. Again, we have this front section here underneath the control station. This will be good for precision. We got this here that would be also good for supplemental precision if we want to do that. And then perhaps the stuff on the outside, if you utilize that, you probably want to use that as just like a shield stripper stuff. Lasers, that sort of thing. Right. So, yeah, I presume that would conclude our mounted weapons, and that's fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at our turret placement. There's quite a bit of it. Alrighty. So, however we're slicing it with the this little piece right here, whether we're utilizing that for some small weapon mounts or maybe that's that medium size. You could stack a turret on top of that. So that works there. Plenty of real estate here on the front section here, I would say. I don't have anything marked out, and I'll probably mark it out by the time this build goes out. But starting at the edge here, you can continue to push these out. Now, you get to this point right here, you can remove the thin blocks. Push these back so you open up a placement. So you could go like that. And then your last placement would be back here, continuing to remove the thin blocks. And so your suite should look something like that. 4 on either side. And then so at the bottom, we have this option here, and the same thing. Just continuing to place these. Right? So we could also, rather than have a mounted weapon there, we could do like that for a turret. Right? Okay, so that's the forward section. Probably, again, you want to keep these, like, if you're doing Reforged Eden 2. Probably not concerned with RE1 and Vanilla, since you get the full shield coverage. Now, for RE2, probably you want the Tier 1 stuff in the front there. So continuing, that's an obvious spot right there. You'll like that. And then if we're utilizing this back section, right, so we've already hit the cap on the lights. Let's take a look at our mediums. And also for our cruise missiles, I recommend that. These are essentially invaluable. EMP is very big. Like, what I'm finding success with the agility builds is having them synergize with missiles, since you're going to be rotating and spinning and doing any number sort of thing that would potentially throw off a turret's accuracy, but that's not a concern with missiles since those are homing. But there are other techniques, and I wouldn't want to typecast you into one thing, but that's what works for me, and I would recommend it. But again, you know, play as you see fit. Now, okay, so continuing on with our turret coverage there. So you could do like that. That's a tri-mount there. And okay, so maybe we want to utilize this. Maybe that's not a mounted weapon. We have the turret. And so for the back, we have this last placement here. We just want to go ahead and take off these thin blocks. Right? There's that. So that also give you a little bit of coverage on the back side versus some drones. Alright. So cruise missiles, you just want to... Yeah. So you kind of fill them up with the light weapons, haven't we? Now we do have the placement on the bottom. So we got that this landing gear here, but that's not going to be an issue as we place these out. So it could do like that, and then, you know, that should have a line of sight shot. This is also a placement here. You got an open line of sight on that, so that's good. Now let's take a look at our let's see here. Yeah, that should do it. It should have around 38 if we've done our C21. Yeah, it's about close. So, you're determining of turret selection is going to be entirely up to you how you configure that. So maybe you'd want to take out some of these lights and put in mediums in place of that, or maybe take out some mediums and put in some cruise missiles. Just make sure. I feel like I'm missing a few spots. Oh yeah, of course, yeah, blah. It just completely blew my mind. We talked about it earlier. Right, so we have this center section here, towards the front of the bridge. So we can take these out, right? Presumably you'd want to use these as light placements, but I'm using the mediums just as a reference, right? So we take that out, and then we got that there. And you could potentially even leave in this little half block section to give you a little bit of partial coverage versus return fire, and this could work as a sort of decoy, and yeah, or just contribute. So maybe you just want to keep these little half blocks there, and it still will fire out of this bottom half. So if you're above the enemy, these are still going to contribute to the fight, and also kind of work as a decoy too, with some encasement of protection. So same thing over here on this opposite side. We want to take these out. Should be should be flagged. Anyways, I'll have this. There should be some symbols down here. This might be a different build that I'm looking at. But, so, we push it back like that, and... I'm missing a block. Yeah, this one here. Alright. Is that our cap already? Okay, that's our cap, so... well, that's... Alright, that's all of our... That's all of our turrets. So, we came up with an extra 2 somehow. Yeah, maybe it's this one here. So let's say we take this off, and then we roll this here. Right. So that's it all for all of our turrets. Yeah, that's everything. That's the cap for RE2. And after that, got your thrusters upgraded. You're ready to go blow something up. Just stay out of legacy space. The layers are thin. They're strong. We got some titanium, combat steel at the front, hardened steel, a good mixture of that. Yeah, but if you find some stuff that's like locked up with hit scan, some of the enemies that are just fielding stuff that has a high shield penetration, legacy and such, yeah, stay away from that. But otherwise, this little Corvette can take you very far. In the right hands, using the agility at its peak, you get a lot of good mileage out of it. Alright, now we're going to move on to some other stuff. Solar panels, and lastly we'll look at our configuration of colors. That would be these guys here. Be all of our color selection. And we'll take a look at that here once I continue the video. And welcome to Reforge 1, folks. So now we're going to take a look at our optional solar placement. A few configurations here. Some of them are determined to be out of the way and be their own dedicated solar spot, and some of them are actually potentially going to be an optional with a sort of clash system. Now, first thing we want to do is we want to look at the bottom of this thing, and we have the thin blacks here, so these can be taken out. Right, and then so that will get our smaller solar placement, and then once that's done, we can go ahead and double stack on top of that. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of these little light blocks, and that should open up our large one right there. So that's that. It could also, I guess it's that actually. So then we have the. Oh, sorry, that's our. I'm messing it up. All right. Anyways, I meant to hit this here. I'm sorry. All right, so this is an option for the larger one. Get rid of that. Okay. So that's going to be paired across. I'm sorry, against 2 drive thrusters. So keep that in mind. But that is an optional placement. Now, moving back towards the bottom of the build, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got going on here on the center line. Right. There it is. All right, so let's get rid of this symmetry plane that's in our way. All right. So we have this option here. We could go with, let's go with these guys right here. We got placement option of 3. And then so that'll leave us with a placement of one right there in that little section, and right there. So that's it for our smalls. It should be our bottom placement completely unless we want to go back here, which will actually run against our ramp. But if we wanted to, sorry, it's the wrong rotation. Right? If we wanted to, we have the single large placement there. Right, so we've got that one. And right, so that's pretty much it for the top. Now, for any sort of placement we have at the front there that hasn't used the turrets, then we could utilize something like that, and that'll still leave you open some turret placement. Should be able to get your full sweep there, even with that placement. And so then we're moving to the top of the build. Right, so what we can do is get rid of these blocks here. Right, and we can just continue to do that till we fill up our options right there. So let's say we go ahead and pull our last one right there. So again, that should not clash with your turret placement right there. So there's that. Now, we do have this the section here. If we're not gonna, so say for example with Reforged Eden 1, you know, if we're not gonna use it as like a big artillery turret, then we could utilize this space here, just continuing to move these thin blocks, right? So it could do like that. Or maybe if we're not worried about that overhang, we'll just use the smaller panel in that case. Something like this. Right? And that could leave you up for an artillery right there with one block overhang. Problem with that. And again, back here, this is another option. Right, so we want to get rid of these, and so we could go like this, put that one there, or we could go ahead and take that off and drop the bigger one. It's going to give us an overhang, though. So maybe we're good with just a small one. And that's fine there. Alright, so now as we are, so since we've got the landing gear here, we can use this central section. So let's say, for example, all right, we're using the bottom here for our turret suite. So we've got this placement here, right? And then maybe that outside section there. And then that'll leave us these spots here. We could, depending on what we have left that we need to place, we just go ahead and drop. So for example, this one here, and then we could go ahead and rotate that. And that could be configuration, or if we wanted to, could go for some smalls here. Yeah. So something like that. That's also a configuration. And then also, well, this is a turret spot here, so this would kind of be a clash point. So maybe we just want the solar panel placement. Entirely up to you. Could also utilize this, get rid of that block, and this will help contribute to your, get rid of that. So I'm not missing here. That's this guy. That's the culprit. Right? Okay, that's an option there. And moving forward, I had originally intended to set these up for solar placement, but kind of didn't work out. I was cutting into that block. I didn't like the look of it. But should have a good number here. We can't really put one here since that's going to clash with a drive thruster. So we have, again, we have some more options here at the top. Now, maybe we want to pull these blocks here. Some configuration, and double clicking things really aggravating. Alrighty. So then take this, and then we just need to get rid of this last thin layer block. Again, this shouldn't be competing with your turret placement. That should fulfill that, and then everything else again should be placement for turrets. No problem there. No muss, no fuss. See, we got that there, and then this could be right. So we've got turret placement here, enjoying the perks, the bennies, and then behind that we got sneaky little solar placement. All right, so that's external. Let's look at what we got here for our count. 33, so we're not too far off of our max count if we're worried about doing the 48. Okay, so I would say we move internally at this point, and there's a number of options. Again, we got this whole box. Depending on what we have done with it, we could just go ahead and fill this out. I could do 1, 2, 3 like that, and just continue. Right? So there's that. Are we capped out? No, we're not capped out yet. All right, so rather than, so that's one option. And so let's say we don't want to use these small configurations. We could also use it as a large, and we just need to rotate here like this. Right? So same thing. You probably want to put the larges in here. Yeah, the largest and then these could be the smalls there at that little forward section. All right. So then that should give us what? 41. Just need a few to go. Now, again, like I mentioned earlier, we have this placement on the side here, sort of dedicated to constructors if you want to do that. But, you know, let's say you're not worried about it. You'd rather just hit your cap. So now you could just, let's see, put these guys in here. Be nice if the rotation showed the reference the whole time. So this would be your shields right there, so we're not going to do that. And I could also do this on the opposite side. And there is a number of other options too. You could go ahead and utilize this floor. So maybe you don't want to, you know, choke up all of those compartment spots, and could go like that. All right, so something like that. So that takes care of your smalls. And I guess if we want to, maybe we're done with whatever we're using this compartment for, and we could use this this thin block layer here. We could get rid of this, and that'll give us our additional placement. So just keep continuing to remove these thin blocks, and we can just cap this baby off too. Again, you're gonna want to wait to do this until you've filled up that rear compartment there, and then okay, so that's a placement there, and then could do like a small here, for example. Alrighty, here we are. Boom. So could do like that, and you'll still have access to that door. Well, so that's pretty much. Let's see, what are we looking at here? Should be getting really close to our 48 mark. All right, 46. So I think that's 2 larges left to do. All right. So I guess in the interest of that, whoops, we got a little misfire here, don't we? All right. Yeah, so maybe we do want to just cannibalize some of this little area here. What's our ideal configuration? Yeah, it's this one here and this one in the middle, the sloped one. So let's just do this, get our symmetry plane up. And probably better to, let's see, oh, can't do that block. This should work. So You want to remove this first one here. So this little guy here, don't push past that, and we're gonna go ahead and remove these. Okay. Let's see, how are we looking here? There's our placement right there. So, yeah, could use a little bit of color though to clean that up, honestly. Boom, boom. Actually, this run here doesn't need to be taken out. Maybe I'm mistaken. Yeah, so you could leave these blocks in. And that flows with it too. So that works well. So let's say we keep this run here, right? And then we're going to get rid of just this bit here. Oops. I'll tell you what, man, if there's one thing I'm happy about with Reforged Eden 2, is not having to find spot for 48 solar panels. My goodness. I'm glad we moved on from this. Yeah, so there's that, and, you know, just continue to fulfill your large allotment on any one of these sides. That should be it. I must have... Okay, I accidentally took these out. But yeah, so these would go here, right? This is quite a bit. I'm glad that we've moved on from this. This was too much. I guess you could do the same thing over here for the angled ones. Could take these out. So this could be either mediums or larges. So yeah, again, same thing. Just mirror what you've done. If you want to utilize these little placements here for the solar, just mirror what I've done here and just carry that over to this side. All right, that's it. So last thing we're going to take a look at is our color configuration. All right, folks, so last thing we want to take a look at is how to change our color configuration. So I will have some color options here in the build. Now I'm going to locate these inside of the engineering, so be looking for that once this thing goes live. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at our reference out here in the hangar, temporary reference. So if we're looking at the build, right, so hangar, and then here we are. We arrive at one section, or I'm sorry, one option. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and highlight this numerical value and then hit Control C. Okay, and then while we're looking at the build here, we're going to right click with our texture and tool out. Texture and color tool, I'm sorry. So at the top left, we're going to go ahead and click on this, left click. And while holding down shift, we're going to go down here and also left click. And then now what we're going to do is, since we have our color copied, just go ahead and hit paste. And we're going to hit OK to lock the color change in. And there it is. So we've gone from blue to red. Again, there's going to be a number of color options. There will be a few inside of the ship, but for the most part, all of these full color options are going to be located on the workshop post. And that's it. Simple as that. And this concludes the Defender 2 tutorial. I hope you enjoy this thing, and I hope you are able to utilize it to its fullest potential as an agility build. And if you have any feedback concerning it, let me know. Till next time, LyfeForce out. Hey folks, if you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a patron today. As a patron, you gain access to exclusive builds not featured on the workshop, early access builds, as well as participate in a number of things, including polls, feedback, comments, suggestions, ideas, or anything you'd like to submit to current and future builds. If any of this appeals to you, please consider becoming a patron today. Link in the pinned comment below. Thank you.